Josh, how are you?
It's a late meeting, I have to say. I think I got home after 8.
I didn't know it was that fast, sorry.
These are nice. I'm always afraid to spend money on sunglasses. But yeah.
I have 2 pairs of both prescription.
At all times.
I go to the dollar store and buy 5 at a time.
And we know that.
I had a nice pair of Oakleys last summer. I had no, I lost them.
Everybody ready? Everybody good?
Jim. Okay.
I'd like to call to order the working session for today's Common Council for the City of Plattsburgh on June 1. This is the time of the meeting where we have extended conversation of any items that might be on the agenda. There's no need for any executive sessions today, so we do have this half hour. May I suggest, certainly feel free to bring out anything from the agenda you'd like to have additional discussion, but I know tonight is the night where you adopt your 5-year outlook for how you see the budget trending, revenues and expenses, and do your little statement. So if you'd like to devote as much of that time to that discussion as well, rather than in the actual council meeting, you could use it for that as well as you wish.
Okay. I think we'll take you up on that, Mayor. We have several resolutions tonight to modify the capital budget, and they've all been discussed, and we were asked by the mayor early in May to come up with our 5-year budget plan by June 1st, and turns out that he found that in the charter, so he recommended that we live by the charter and come up with that 5-year plan. So we did. We worked very hard over the month of May to come up with that, and we discovered a lot of things about Plattsburgh city finances that sort of impinge on our fiscal health, and I asked Rochelle Armstrong, who did this earlier in the year, and I think in preparation for starting up the strategic committee that she and Josh work on. So I'm going to defer to her and ask her to just share with us some of the things that have happened over the years that got us into the current financial condition. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that current financial condition is in just a few minutes, but we'll ask Rochelle to start with a brief commentary.
Okay, well, I couldn't have done this without Chamberlain Richard Marks. It's really he supplied the data that informed this little informal report. But, you know, so often our discussions in terms of public perception are kind of without the proper context. And I think because, you know, our forecast ahead and starting with the 6.66% tax increase this year, you know, it's quite dismaying for the taxpayer, and unless we really fully understand what underlying factors have caused problems, you know, it seems kind of arbitrary, I think, sometimes to the public. My neighbor just joked with me today, wow, I hear you're gonna raise our taxes again. But he was nice, but anyway, so I encouraged him to tune in tonight, and I hope a lot of people will watch, and I hope we get good coverage in the paper. You know, journalists like Joe, he's been around for the discussion, so he's aware of some of these factors. But in looking at the real challenges we have that amount to a structural deficit, the Chamberlain has pointed out many times that after 2008, our contribution to the retirement system nearly tripled. There was, and I'll have to read some of this because it's so technical, but we basically were cited because of, by the Public Entity Trust of New York, and because we were not satisfactorily managing our workers' comp program. So we had to contribute an additional millions worth of workers' comp. The New York State assessments of utility properties created property tax increases for city funds just to fund infrastructure maintenance expenditures. We inherited, as we've heard often enough, some really serious infrastructural failures as a result of our park property that we got. And you know, there are other smaller factors, employee benefits, pay raises, and retroactive pay for settlements have risen kind of disproportionately to what we could garner in revenue given the tax cap. Steady rise in operational costs, increased debt and debt service costs. So,
And also the interest arbitration for the fire department.
and the interest arbitration for the fire department. Thank you, jump in anytime.
Sorry,
if
I
I
just
miss
saw it.
anything. But, you know, the Chamberlain's position has been that we could have managed these under better circumstances than we actually had. And so we were at a disadvantage because of major declines in revenue. Among them, the Falcon Seaboard Cogeneration Plant revenue share paid $850,000 annually, but it only had a limited lifespan. In 2009, it was reduced to $93,000, costing the general fund $757,000. But as the Chamberlain has pointed out many times, the financial planning and reliance upon the general fund for expenditures did not reflect that reduction. Somebody else want to jump in? This is oh, and then there was the instance in which in the early 2000s, the general fund budget was balanced by increasing water and sewer rates enough to be able to increase transfers to the general fund by about $1.28. But a New York State audit revealed that these transfers were unacceptable, and so we had to make go to a supportable level in reductions of about $400,000, which was made over a 5-year period, but that still was an $800,000 hit to our revenue in the general fund. Other factors, you know, I know Councilor Dowdle, when we were circulating some of these ideas, pointed out that state aid has significantly dropped over time. We've had challenges to assessments that have reduced the taxable revenue. So we have a big structural deficit, and unless we cut back base expenditure levels by about 1.5 million and the loss of revenue, that deficit problem can't be repaired unless the revenue's replaced. And that also puts us in the bind of either raising property taxes or cutting back on personnel, which is about 74% of our general fund. So that's kind of like a brief history, a brief painful history of the situation in which we find ourselves. Perhaps if those problems had been addressed back when we recognized that those sourcing funds weren't gonna, or those revenue funds weren't gonna keep rolling in, we had planned better, we might not be in this shape, but the fact is we're stuck with the problem now. You want to add anything?
Just that, well, thank you, Rochelle, for that explanation. If anybody has anything to add to that narrative, please feel free to do so. We sort of collectively decided that we will no longer deal with the city's fiscal problems by pushing them down the road. We're going to address them. That was sort of the council's stance on this 5-year budget plan. Let's try to look at all of the factors that got us into this financial condition, and then going forward, let's try to deal with those in a constructive and I would say sort of a repairing manner. We're going to fix this is our attitude. And I hope I speak for the entire council to say that's our goal. We're going to fix this. We're going to make this financial house of ours very stable and sturdy again.
And sustainable.
And sustainable.
I guess the only thing I would like to add is that it's painfully obvious that we can't continue to do things the way they've been done in the past. That certainly the taxpayers can't support another tax increase like the one that was put in place for 2017. If there is, as I said before, I think the only people that would be happy about it would be Carpenter Brothers, because there'd be people moving out of the city in the stream. I think we need to look at a different way of doing business, different services. We may not be able to have the services and offer the services that we've been offering. I think we have to seriously look at it.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else?
Just a question, when we say we're not pushing things down the road, say the fire truck and the bed and the streets. I mean, eventually they're gonna have to, something's gonna have to happen. So tonight's action, aren't we basically pushing things down the road? If one were to ask that.
I would argue that the fact that we are willing to deal with some of the really hard fiscal issues we face, like the firefighters arbitration, our willingness to do that now is a big reason why we're having to push some other things down the road. And yes, I can't argue with you, Dale. It would be wonderful to have a new fire truck, and it would be wonderful to have all of our streets in tip-top condition, but we just don't have the money. And I think we've come to realize that, and looking at our 5-year plan over and over and over again, that yes, it would be nice to do those things. And yes, we are having to make some painful decisions about what to spend and what not to spend. But in the long run, at the end of this 5-year period that we're planning for, I do believe that we will be back to a point where we can start to think about things like new fire trucks, and how do we improve the streets, and how do we build new infrastructure and that sort of things, instead of being in sort of a survival mentality like we're.
And I don't think we made arbitrary decisions in delaying some of these things. I think we did a pretty careful analysis, and we got a lot of good feedback from the department heads. It's all about setting priorities and figuring out what you can manage in terms of planning for how to finance things. So it's difficult, but hopefully we'll be in a stronger position, and we'll be able to plan for more street repairs as we go along. We'll increase the number of street repairs as we go along. We'll find a way to get the equipment we need. But in the meantime, I just don't feel as though we were capricious in our decisions to delay certain things.
because I have with me the June 10th, 2015 Finance Committee report minutes. And there was a Team Plattsburgh spirit. It was going to cause unease and no more, but it was budgeted response. The matter was seen through the broader perspective of possible personnel cuts in 2016. I don't think we've had any actual personnel cuts, have we? There's been items not filled.
This year, we delayed filling a number of positions, but I think leading up to this year, the total count has increased just about every single year.
Of
Total personnel.
non-items or cuts?
In other words, there's not been any cuts
Cuts.
up till now, and we've had delays, a soft hiring freeze since I took office.
And now, for 2018, is there a request of the department heads to do a 10% across-the-board cut to their budgets?
Not yet, that'd be premature. I told them to prepare for cuts of the magnitude that Chamberlain Marks had discussed with us, the entire council, a number of months ago, in the area of potentially $2 million shortfall. I see from the calculations of the spreadsheet that indeed it looks like a combination of temporary and permanent reductions over the next 2017, 2018, 2019 total, about that same $2 million that Chamberlain Marks had discussed. And I think we've been tracking, been aware that this could be an outcome. And I've made the department heads fully aware that these are discussions we may need to have.
Because I'm thinking some of the departments, when I went through the budgets, building inspector, assessor, the clerks, IT, fire department, engineering department, community development, if they were to cut, they don't have 10% to cut unless they go after items.
Staples.
Correct.
Well, even at that, so we're talking about personnel cuts, are we not? When you
Well,
list that?
as Councilor Armstrong said earlier, 74% of our expenses
Right.
are personnel.
Because I know there was some discussion the fire truck was gonna cost us $63,000 per year for 15 years. And you equated that, Mayor, to 1.5 FTEs. Would we not have 1.5 FTEs that would not be filled within the next year?
I think we're going to have to go very deep this year, next year, and the year after. And the permanent reductions I'm seeing on this spreadsheet, it totals $1.8 million, $1.75 million over the next 3 years. If you multiply $1.75 million times 74%, assuming that all parts of the budget take the same sort of a hit, that's $1.4, $1.3 million of personnel cutbacks. I'm hopeful that as much of that as possible can be done with attrition. That's obviously our goal.
Are there figures on potential retirements?
Yep, and each department head is looking at that very carefully. As a matter of fact, I had a discussion with the department head today who is outlining some of the strategies that, if asked to come up with cutbacks in the order of 10%, what they're juggling with. I'm sure every single department head has been looking at that, doing that same sort of analysis in anticipation of your deliberations.
And if we build the general fund up, how do we protect it from looking like we have money available to satisfy different requests?
After this year, the general fund will be almost completely depleted by paying the arbitration. Well, as a matter of fact, we'll go into negative numbers. That even assumes some of the pretty significant savings that I'm hoping for this year through holding positions open, through the soft hiring freeze, et cetera. I think it's foolhardy to be operating, even you've heard me even say, even in the low end of your 5 to 10% fund range. I think even at the 5% range, that's still dangerous. At the negative fund balance range, it's absolutely suicidal. So we have to build that up over 6-7 years to something that we think gives us the cushion to even out the ups and downs of budgetary cycles.
Okay, and one last question. We had a discussion that if I would support a 22% tax increase, if we had as a council supported a 22% tax increase, would we be where we are today with all this? Or would our problems be pretty much resolved?
I think you would have probably taken care of about 3/4 of the problem, half the problem with a 22% increase. But not all of it. I think you still would have had a lot of budgetary discipline. Let's assume 22% increase and then still modest regular increases thereafter. I don't think it works. I don't think it's a good budget tool to have a large tax increase periodically and do nothing in between. I think we should have tax increases that keep the pace with inflation, rising housing values, rising tax levy, etc. Try to keep that mill rate, though, confined to the rate of inflation or thereabouts. And I think that our strategy in the past is having very large tax increases and then nothing for 5 years, saying, holy cow, this really got out of hand, have a very large tax increase. To me, that really accelerates what Councilor Ensel's phenomenon was of, people wanting to get out of Dodge when they kind of see that pattern occurring rather than something predictable and sustainable and regular.
Okay, thank you.
With the time we have remaining, I'd like to put our budget plan up on the screen for ourselves and the public one last time. And Rochelle gave us a good history of how we got here, and we've had some good discussion about what it's like to be here and some of the painful choices we've had to make.
Mike, can you hang on a sec? Kevin, would you mind,
I know how to do it.
thank you.
Go to full screen. And then you can make it.
You should just like.
I just learned this myself. Okay. I know our council has looked at this many, many times. We don't have a pointer here, do we, or laser pointer? Okay. Okay, well, if you'll look in the year 2017, this is where we stand today. The big factors that impinge on our ability to function are this year, the fire arbitration of 2017. You can see that we're supposed to pay $792,000, which we simply don't have. And the $41,000 in 2017 that you can see is the additional pay that we will pay the firefighters for their settlement, their additional payroll.
No, I think the 41,000 is payment for cost to issue the bonds for the bond issue.
Right.
Oh, okay, I stand corrected then.
The regular increases in firefighters' salaries would think would be on the higher line, about $149,000 a year.
Yes.
And that includes also 207A recipients, additional payroll costs because of the raises, etc.
Yes, thank you for correcting me. Basically, you can see that we tried to factor in as much as we possibly can, as much as we know it's going to affect our budget going forward for 5 years. And some of those numbers, as you can see, are pretty large. One thing we have done recently is we've decided to cut down on capital projects for this year, and we've been able to save about 30 to 40% on bonding those for next year. That figure of 378, 468 in 2018, that figure, as I recall, was about 550, about 550. So we managed to cut out a lot of capital projects as a way of reducing the amount of expenditure.
Josh, they're gonna get this in the packet, so you don't have to.
What about at home?
Yeah, they'll have that in the minutes packet.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, guys. guys.
Okay, so let me just sum up here. We have about a minute before the council meeting starts. The sort of bottom line is that in order to make this work, we have to have tax increases. That's the big bright green line across the middle, about a quarter of the way down the page. Please don't, run home and say, oh my gosh, they're gonna raise my taxes by this amount, because we just don't know at this point. But in order to make all these numbers balance, that looks like it's in the ballpark. And then down at the bottom, all those red numbers you see are permanent reductions and temporary reductions that have to be made to operations to make this 5-year plan work. And you can see that starting in 2018, we could have a small fund balance at the end of the year, a little larger one the next year. This is near the bottom, next to the bottom line there, where you see 88, 354, 117. That could be our fund balance going forward, so that by the end of 2022, we could have $550,000 in the fund balance, which is not what we want. We want more. We would like to have somewhere in the 5 to 10% range. That's about 3.68%, as you can see.
Which is
but
what the state recommends.
the state recommends at least 5, right, and 5 to 10. So we can get there, but as you can see with all those red numbers up above, the permanent reductions in operations, temporary reductions in operations, those things are going to be challenging. And I wish we didn't have to hand a budget like this to the mayor and say, well, create your 2018 budget based on this. But I also feel like what we're handing him is very, very realistic and very grounded in reality.
So just to clarify for the public what I misinterpreted last week, let's say you look at 2018 and a possible, let's stress that word, possible 4.9% tax increase. That is based on, if you go down to the red below the chart, on permanent reductions and temporary reductions amounting to $750,000. So that tax rate is dependent upon further cuts as reflected in permanent and temporary reductions.
Now, that's $750,000 of total temporary reductions and permanent reductions for 2018. That would translate into, if we didn't do that otherwise, the tax increase would actually be about 7.5% higher. So
Right.
much of the work of this, 2/3 of the work of this is done through reductions rather than tax increases.
One thing that we haven't really discussed to a point is potential property that the city owns that we may be able to sell that would also put it on the tax rolls. I think that is something that we should look at, that I think the city has a lot of property out there that we
Yeah.
own.
What, is there a formal way to do that?
Well, today's June 1. My budget has to be done by October 14th. I think starting June 2, we have to now flesh out things that can start realizing these goals for us. And I think every single idea has to be explored. Dean, do you have a legal commentary?
Our code, I believe it's chapter 241, spells out what the city can do with municipal real property. So there's a process. In a nutshell, you need to deem it as surplus property that is no longer has a proper public purpose, and then go through a formal process to get the highest value for that property. So it's spelled out in the code, and yes, there's a process.
Right. Thank you, Dean.
do we have any more copies of these, Beth?
They're all out there.
Oh, okay. There are copies of these for the public, if you would like to pick one up and study it, you're encouraged to. Thank you.
Ryan, how can I? Huh? I just have to make sure my recording's on.
Is there, so I presume that in the council meeting, these will be your recommendations and, to adopt, and you're not casting in stone what the next 5 budgets have to be. Each year, you're actually going to be revising. These are guidelines for us to then produce the budgets in October
Yes.
thereafter.
Yes, we have to see what happens in the year 2018, or the remainder of this year, and up until about this time next year to advise us on what to do for the next 5-year window, so absolutely.
There's one other thing on your agenda tonight, item E, you asked me to explore whether it is contractually possible to delay the purchase of the fire trucks, and our council did look into that matter as I reported to you, and Ferrara is very happy to work with us on this issue, and they're hopeful that we can consummate a deal with them sometime in the future. So they've cooperated fully with us.
Perfect.
That's nice.
And I also spoke with Chief Lawless, and he recognizes that, of course, new fire equipment is preferable. He views this as a fleet management issue, though, to manage the fleet in the top-notch performance as best he can at this point. So he's obviously willing to do anything possible to do that in the interim. I'd be hopeful that things could turn around quickly, or we could revisit the issue with the fire truck even as early as a year from now. But I think it probably is prudent to not have this in the current bond issue and be locked into those higher interest payments for the next 15 years, and if we're in this situation right now.
Because there's a new ambulance requested for 2018. So that, of course, would
Be under bands that would then be accumulated for another bond issue, which I think in the spreadsheet, you anticipated perhaps coming in the year 2022 or something like that. You see in that line item, other one-time increases or reductions to expenses, 100, 200, 300, 400, those are increased band payments each year, and then in the final year, those go away because they get converted to a permanent bond issue.
right. But there is a savings until you do that.
Correct. There is a savings till you do that. So it wouldn't be out of the question to revisit the fire truck issue in the next fiscal year.
Is that the end of the discussion there?
Is that any more discussion on any agenda items? If not, let's call the meeting to order. We'll begin, please, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Mead,
Present.
Counselor Armstrong,
Here?
Counselor Kelly,
Here.
Counselor Dowdle.
Here.
Counselor Renzel.
Here.
Counselor Casper.
Here.
Counselor Kretzer.
Here.
Resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Common Council held on May 25th, 2017 are approved and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Counselor Casper, second by Counselor Renzel. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the payrolls of the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending May 31st, 2017 in the amount of $99,038.82 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Counselor Armstrong, second by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the reports as listed are hereby ordered, received, and placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office.
Moved by Counselor Renzel, second by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending June 2nd, 2017 in the amount of $268,214.08 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Counselor Dowdle, second by Counselor Kretzer. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. This is the time on the agenda, the opportunity for any of you who'd like to please come up and address the council at this opportunity, we ask you to confine yourselves to issues that are on the agenda. We'll have another opportunity to discuss any issue unrelated to agenda items at the end of the meeting.
Good evening. My name is John Lenning. I live at 11 Pleasant Street. I came in late for your little go-around about the budget and the problems with the budget and stuff. I can tell you, it's a bunch of crap. We're here because of 6 people that didn't do their jobs. 5 councilors and 1 city chamberlain. Spending was out of control, hiring was out of control, and you people met every other week. So take the responsibility. You didn't do a damn thing during that period. Every other week you met. It's amazing. Now you're coming after the retirees so that you can balance your budget because you didn't do your job for the last 4 years. Well, that's crap. The reason I came here tonight was to talk about the fire department. When I was HR director, we had a budget and we had contracts with all of our unions. We didn't push back the fire department for 7 years and then blame them for why we got a tax increase.
Mr. Linney, the fire department isn't on the agenda tonight. You
The
may
truck
want-
is, yes it is.
So if you want to address the truck, certainly.
You know, this is supposed to be an open government.
The second comment
I
period,
know.
Then if you know, then follow the rules.
You're going to cut and push back a truck. Have you ever woken up in the morning, on a Sunday morning, and have 3 fires around your house? Well, I have. That's Easter Sunday. I looked out my front window and there's a car burning. I look out my back window and my son comes running into the thing and saying, the house across next to Zook's Diner is on, or Zook's Deli is on fire. And then a house right behind it. What happens if one of those trucks doesn't get there? Because it breaks down. Don't push this back a year. Somebody's life is in your hands on that decision. We get a crew that is coming down and all of a sudden the truck stops. What are they supposed to do? Thumb their way to the fire? Blaming the fire department all these years is bullcrap, and we will talk about it after.
Thank you. Any other individuals like to come and speak on issues on the agenda?
Is the budget part of the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, my name is Bruce Board. I'm a retired firefighter from the city of Plattsburgh. And listening to this and reading the last 2 interest arbitration awards that I guess were done during Mayor Kasperzak's time, and the money was there to pay those arbitration awards. And Mr. Marks, what was the budget surplus or mayor count on the payment office?
I don't think this is a question and answer period, is it?
It's out of order.
Correct.
Well,
We can get you the information.
Huh?
We can get you the information.
Okay, well, I know, I think the figure in the paper was $6.2 million. And looking at that amount of money that was in there, and after reading this last and the one before this, and the city chamberlain saying we are spending $1.2 million more than what we're taking in, and going back and looking at some of the contracts that were awarded to different unions, when in 2012, a 20-year firefighter was making $7,000 less than a 20-year police officer. And in 2017, that figure has gone up to $17,000 difference. So that mayor that left office with, that inherited this $6.2 million budget surplus and, gave out some pretty good contracts to some of these unions, and the budget problem, I understand there is a budget problem, but I don't see anything in there about in that line of budget what the savings is when you change the retirees' health insurance. I know right now it's roughly $40,000 a month, but last year, according to Judy Tylo, it was even larger. So you have 71 retirees that took their retirements away, their health insurance away, and that padded the city coffers pretty well, probably $40,000 to $50,000 a month. $6.2 million, a lot of money. Like gentleman before me just said, every other week meetings, giving these large pay raises out to some unions. I think you all guys had to vote on it, correct? I think the council has to still vote on that. I just, I just see that a lot of money was spent, I guess, in the paper, $1.2 million on a marina that is being leased out to a Canadian company that we're losing money on. Some of my thoughts about the budget. Like I said, I know that there is 2 interest arbitrations paid out during the Kasperzak administration. And this year seems to be like, a great big thing. The fire truck seems to be a great big thing, but I don't see anything about retiree health insurance on there and all the savings that was done in the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, on 71 people that lost their health insurance. Many of them managers, and last year $118,000 in longevity pay was paid out to managers. Bonuses, longevity pay. But managers that worked here 30, 35 years and dedicated their lives to the city, you took their health insurance away from them. So that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other individuals like to come and speak to issues on the agenda? Please come forward.
Hi, my name's Ira Barbell, and I just have just asking for a point of clarification on the budget sheet. That you have an item on here on payment in lieu of taxes and other property revenues of a little bit in excess of $300,000 a year. Now, I wonder if you could, kind of explain that a little bit more. When is the bulk of that payment in lieu of taxes, or is it other revenues?
Mostly small pilots, some remaining pilots
I'm supposed to be
left.
asking questions, but it's
You're gonna get
My
an
understanding.
I'm just interested in, are you getting the majority of the facilities that are not paying taxes in this state to step up at a point where you're struggling with a real serious fiscal problem in the city that it also is going to impact them, especially in the fire and health? I'd just like to hear a little bit more about that if possible.
We are, as one of the things we're exploring, figuring out determining ways to have some of the exempt properties pay some of the various costs that the city invests on their behalf. And so we'll be exploring other strategies. At this point, approximately 30 to 38% of our properties in the city are tax exempt. Thank you. Any other individuals like to come and speak to the council? Thank you. Seeing none, let's continue.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves the information technology department to solicit bids on the New York State Information Technology umbrella contract for HP personal computers and workstations.
Moved by Counselor Kretzer, second by Counselor Armstrong. Discussion?
Do we have an idea of exactly how many we're looking at? Approximately how many?
So this bid is actually for 10 PCs total, 9 for police department, 1 for engineering. It's part of the overall electric plan. Normally, we don't go to bid on PCs, these are slightly different spec than what we call the aggregate buy. And New York implemented the new umbrella contract, or we would call it mini bid. That's
What's the average age of the units being replaced?
The 9 PD are hitting 7 years old this year, the one in engineering is only about 4 or 5 years old, but it's a heavy use machine.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves that the mayor is authorized to sign architectural and engineering design services supplemental agreement with ADAPC for City Hall window improvements. The cost associated with this service is $3,300.
Moved by Counselor Kelly and second by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion? I will note that the city did receive a grant for the Windows upgrade brought to us by Senator Little, so we thank her for that. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves contract number 2017-8 sludge hauling for WPCP be awarded to Rodham Inc. Drummond Septic Service for the total lump sum price of $186,224.40.
Moved by Counselor Kelly and second by Counselor Casper. Discussion? A little bit of background. You see many of the tanker trucks that come by a number of times each week are actually bringing sludge to our plant, which is then processed. Our plant receives a fee for this. One thing we are going to do for the sludge hauling as a consequence of dewatering the sludge, we then move the dewatered sludge to landfills in Malone and Chateauguay and in Vermont. These are the fees to remove the dewatered sludge out. We are exploring, by the way, for the interest of the public, in asking the truckers to use alternative routes in and out of town, so it's not going on some of our most frequently pedestrian roads. So we're coming up with a master plan for routes for these. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves contract number 2015-02 electrical services for WPCP with Triangle Electric be extended by 1 year. $149,000 has been budgeted for 2017.
Moved by Counselor Dowdle and seconded by Counselor Armstrong. Discussion? Triangle Electric takes care of some of our more complicated electrical work at the plant and saves us in having to employ a permanent electrician down there. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves amending the capital expenditure plan for 2017 by canceling the purchase of a fire truck.
Moved by Counselor Kretzer, second by Counselor Armstrong. Discussion. Counselor Dowdle?
Yes, earlier in the meeting, Mayor, you indicated when you talked to Ferrera about the delay, and this says canceling. So we're delaying this?
Well, I
The
think it's,
resolution reads canceling.
well, we are canceling this order, but I think ultimately we're going to be ordering a fire truck at some time in the future. Chief Lawless has done a lot of research in the type of vehicle with the most interchangeable parts. And we suspect that, especially given the purchase of Ferrara by another company that owns 3 fire truck manufacturing companies, we'll be at some point revisiting them for a subsequent purchase. We wanted to make sure we constructed this. We had a problem with the way this had been contracted. We believe there were some improper parts to that contracting. So we wanted to correct that, but at the same time, we wanted to make sure we maintained a good relationship with this entity to go back in the future. We were reassured that they're very happy to work with us in the future.
And how would we revisit this, say, in a year's time? Would it be based upon the chief's recommendation about what's going on with the truck? Would we bring it, how is it gonna, if it fails, how does it come back to us?
I mentioned during the work session that the chief is now going to develop a fleet management policy for that vehicle and monitor it carefully, and I'm sure he's going to keep us apprised of any maintenance problems that aren't manageable or accelerating. And I'm sure you as a council will then address that. I'm sure all of you are most concerned about safety issues and having reliable vehicles, as the chief is.
Is there any direction as to where to cap the repairs before we revisit this?
Be a good idea to develop some sort of policy so we know when we hit that point. I think that is something we could construct. And I imagine that would be a part of a rational fleet policy or fleet management policy.
For all the departments.
It makes sense everywhere, that's right.
But as I recall in our discussion after we considered this matter extensively, Chief Lawless did say that he could delay it. He was the one who, after all of our questioning and our, evaluation, said that it would be possible to delay this, that it would be, well, I'm interpreting, but we sat there in the room together and that was something that he said.
Mayor, are you recommending that we cancel this fire truck purchase?
I am.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes?
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves amending the capital expenditure plan for 2017 by reducing the renovations to Firehouse Number 2.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion.
Are you recommending, Mayor, that we cancel this? Or, I'm sorry, reduce the renovations?
I think that's a good idea as well. Note that we already are proceeding with the engineering for when we do proceed with this. We'll have a very clear-cut understanding of the cost and the scope of the work necessary.
By reducing the renovations, is there any sort of way to qualify what
I think
reducing
the
or
term meant
eliminating or-
reducing the sum devoted to the renovations. And we say reducing because, as I mentioned, we already are investing in some engineering. So when we're prepared to do this, when we have the need, this was associated with the new fire truck going into the site. So when we have that need, we then have a quick blueprint for how to very quickly proceed.
This would be revisited at the time of the truck, right? We wouldn't visit one without the other.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves amending the capital expenditure plan for 2017 by canceling the purchase of a DPW maintenance vehicle.
Moved by Councilor Casper, second by Councilor Wenzel. Discussion.
Mayor, are you recommending we cancel the purchase of this maintenance vehicle?
I am, and again, in consultation with the department head for DPW, they felt that this is a manageable thing to do, and that they've also got a fleet management strategy going for this.
Yeah, but if you recall, we all sat around the table with Misters Brody and Brissette, and, they even helped us with their recommendations about how to handle this reduction, this cancellation.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes?
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves amending the capital expenditure plan for 2017 by reducing the DPW building maintenance projects.
Moved by Counselor Armstrong, seconded by Counselor Kelly. Discussion. Again, I concur with the recommendations of the DPW department head. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves amending the capital expenditure plan for 2017 by canceling the Leonard Avenue roadwork.
Moved by Counselor Dowdle, seconded by Counselor Ansel. Discussion.
Mayor, what is your recommendation?
This is, as you know, we had a number of roads on the capital plan for this year. I recommended that we certainly proceed with those that are creating a large maintenance liability for us, especially the main road on the old base, the new base, and the South Peru, which is one of the entrances into town. I haven't looked at the engineering work on Leonard. I have, not an engineer, but I've also looked at Broad Street. Those two, I believe, are probably, if we are to delay any, they'll be the ones that will be the most easy to delay. I think they should be reinserted for consideration for next year within an adjusted capital plan, and we'll leave that up to the engineers. Our engineer Farrington did concur that this seems like a sensible approach in our discussion last week with him during the budget hearing.
So let me ask, we do the 5-year plan for the streets. Since we're bumping things, will we be doing that next year? Because at that point, from next year, we'll have 5 years' work. Would
Right,
that be
I
a-
hope not, and I agree that we've for too long been bumping items farther and farther and farther, and one of the reasons in defense of South Peru Street is that's been bumped for probably 5 or 6 years, and I think you can only bump things for so long. Toronto does a very rational revolving building maintenance plan, or road maintenance plan. After 15 years, it's either the road is either rebuilt or it goes into a category of yearly re-engineering to monitor. They find that almost, and it's a very similar climate to Plattsburgh, almost no road can go past the 20 or 25 year point. The problem with letting a road go too far is too much water ends up seeping underneath and then causing freezing damage, so that repave becomes a major rebuild, which ends up costing the city an awful lot more in the long run. So I think we should be cognizant of it, and simply pushing things down the road has to be done within an environment of much closer monitoring as well. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves amending the capital expenditure plan for 2017 by canceling the Broad Street road work.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Dowdle. Discussion. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Enzel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves amending the capital expenditure plan for 2017 by canceling the US Oval athletic field improvements.
Moved by Councilor Ansel and second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion, please.
Yeah, this is one of the points where we're trying to figure out what to do to address the budget plan in a concrete, specific way. I just want to remind everyone that this came about because Steve said there is a better option that might also generate revenue for the city. And but that would cost, Steve, what, $50,000?
That was a ballpark.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But I believe Mr. Marks told us there would be a $24,000 savings because not having this part of a bond payment. So, you know, this might be the point where some investment addresses long-term revenue infrastructure issues.
So your comments then on the resolution are to,
keep this in mind when we're trying to do specific budget things this fall.
Okay.
And when Steve comes to us and says, you know, gave up that money for something better down the road, that we take
Intentional
that,
revenue.
we take that really
generation.
seriously.
we could offer tournaments and things like that. if
Right.
We upgraded the field.
Right.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Hensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Ketzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council of the city of Plattsburgh has prepared and approved the 5-year budget plan commencing on January 1st, 2018, which will be presented to the mayor of the city of Plattsburgh for his use in preparing the 2018 mayor's budget.
Moved by Councilor Kelly, second by Councilor Ansel. Discussion.
I think it's been a really good process. And I think that we're on the road to improvement. And I just want to kind of clear the air regarding what seemed to be the suggestion that the council, particularly myself, wasn't taking responsibility. I feel as though, to the best of my knowledge, over time, I've tried to make the best decisions I possibly could. And I think that any public servant takes that very seriously. We don't do these things frivolously. We might make mistakes. That's just the nature of being a human being and trying to do the best you can. I am certainly willing to say that I've made mistakes, and I hopefully have learned from them. But be that as it may, I'm very proud to be looking at our budgetary sustainability and health and working so collaboratively and with not only the council but the Chamberlain, the department heads. I'm really grateful for this process, and I very humbly would like to say that I'm proud.
Councilor Kelly?
The charter advises that not only are we supposed to produce this numerical output for the mayor each year, we're also supposed to produce what you might call a wish list. What do we want our city to look like? How do we want it to be? And some of those things cost money and some don't. So next year, I am hopeful that on June 1st, we can not only provide the mayor with the numerical output, we can also provide him with the council's wish list. And I would like to rely on Josh and Rochelle and their strategic committee to advise us on where to go with that, so that next year, Mayor, we're gonna hand you a big package. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? You know, it's my attitude, there's no reason to fret too much over what got us to this point. I think we're given a set of facts and we're gonna deal with them as responsibly as we possibly can. And I think that's what all of us are determined to do.
Absolutely.
Yes, I'd just like to kind of repeat my comments from the earlier meeting in that I think we really need to look at what services we offer right now. I think that the way we do business and the way the city operates needs to change.
Those deliberations really need to begin tomorrow. Now we've got our direction for our goals for the upcoming year to incorporate into a budget. We have 4 or 5 months to do that, 6, 7 months before the close of the year, before you have to finalize your budget. There's a lot of work ahead of us. A lot of very difficult decisions need to be made. And obviously I'm going to be working as closely as I can with you all to come up with my budget. And hopefully by October we'll have a pretty good sense of all this. The other nice thing about doing this planning ahead is that we're not squandering opportunities today to come up with savings today. We're already starting in the process halfway through the year leading up to this next budget year, and I think that's going to put us in better stead. It'd be terrible to say, for instance, to backfill a position that became vacant only to discover in October or December that's not something we could really afford. So I really appreciate this guidance this early on in the year. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore the common council approves 2 wastewater treatment plant laborers to attend basic operations and activated sludge certification classes at SUNY Morrisville on September 11th through 22nd, 2017, and October 16th through 19th, 2017, at an estimated cost not to exceed $6,626.64.
Moved by Councillor Kretzer, second by Councillor Dowdle. Discussion, please. These training sessions allow more individuals within the plant to be qualified and to create a level of redundancy and succession planning for the plant. Future training, we're actually hoping to construct a plan where we can have the trainer come here and train a number of our individuals all at one time as an economy measure. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Casper?
Yes.
Counselor Kretzer?
Yes.
You can see there's one resolution for your initial consideration. We can discuss further next week, but Manager Ruff has asked us to consider coming up with a new sludge trailer. You noted it previously that our sludge is being hauled out by other companies, but the trailer itself is owned by the city. So we have to balance in our minds when repairs start outweighing replacement costs. Very much as Councillor Casper recommended, we do come up with some sort of benchmark for when we know we need to purchase the next DPW vehicle or fire trucks. I think it'd be good for us to come up with some sort of balancing point for when this decision makes sense. Perhaps we can work together over the next week to come up with some sort of formula on that and look at best practices.
Maybe in addition to the final resolution next week, could we ask John to provide a list of maintenance history for the 2 existing trailers so that we can know how much has been spent and know if we're making a good decision. And in addition, are there any additional costs associated with this new purchase? I doubt that there are, but please think about that. And are we bonding? Are we paying cash? How's that going to work? Those sorts of questions. It would be nice if we have them answered before the meeting next week.
Any further discussion? Any new business or councillor reports? Please, Councillor
I just
Dowdle.
have a question and concerns from constituents. Maybe Mr. McMahon can answer this, maybe not. We might have to go elsewhere. It's concerns from residents of Lower Park, Olivetti, and Sanborn, the heating plant on Plattsburgh State campus. They started construction last August. They started at 6 a.m., they were working till 4 p.m. They are now working to 10:30 PM, and they are now gonna start working till midnight. There are jackhammers, trucks idling, lots of noise, wondering what can be done. There's been an individual who has talked to the foreman. It's very congenial. She's indicated that they now have permission from the state to continue working till midnight. And they find it quite disturbing. It went from 4 to 10:30, now it's going to midnight. When we did the high school project, we were very considerate, and I think that was a state contract as well, I would think. Again, that was all night, but it was a 2-week period. This has been going on since last August. And it's 6 AM to 4 PM, which is long enough, but now that windows are open, people are home, and it's gonna go to midnight. They're looking to see if that can be addressed through the city in any way.
I'll look into that tomorrow. I'll get in touch with you, and this is the first I've heard of it. It's overseen by the Department of State, so.
Right. I mean, I know it's probably not permitted through the city and things, but.
No, we have an ordinance about time of construction start unless it's.
Right.
So.
You know, they said they put up with it through the winter because windows were closed and muffled, but they leave the overhead doors open, the gates are open, the trucks, all right, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion, reports?
Just one rehash on properties. The Department of Transportation, I know we've talked about it, the 12 or 17 acres. Just how did the talks originate and where did they go?
They originated as part of the state's effort to encourage us to consolidate. And as you know, they periodically provide incentives for us to do these things. So they brokered the initial discussions. I went to the meeting where this was discussed. I can say that our DPW representatives had a very open mind on considering any alternatives, and obviously they would then do their due diligence and make sure this was an affordable and economical way to proceed. And my take of it, we just couldn't get the DOT to be interested in seriously considering the move. We were talking at that time of a swap. Our DPW facility is just outside of the city, so we do pay town, school district taxes, and their facility is within our city. They're in primarily a residential area, and they do an awful lot of moving in and out of sand trucks and salt and that sort of thing. We do get our share of complaints about that activity, so we thought it would be better off for the hometown group of our DPW to be residing in the city and swap locations. We also felt it'd be good for them, the DOT, to be more closely aligned to Route 9, Route 22, and the interstate by being located up right near, just off of the airport. So we thought this seemed like a marriage made in heaven. We would have had assistance from another entity in the state to facilitate the move. I guess presumably not enough assistance or enticements or willingness on the part of the DOT to consider it. I wouldn't not revisit it. I think if there's another opportunity, we should keep revisiting that. I think it's a very good solution for all concerned, but it seems it needs some inducements.
Were there actual conversations or just correspondence?
Conversations. We had
With
an audio
local?
conference with probably 8 or 10 people were on that audio conference.
So we were outnumbered, is that what happened?
I think either side had veto power is what happened.
Okay. But we can discuss that further, correct?
Certainly.
And I can as well?
Please do.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or reports?
Just on the heels of our 5-year plan, I'd just like to again state that we're going to start a citizens advisory committee for fiscal matters. If anyone on the council or in the community knows of anyone who would like to participate in such an endeavor, please bring their names forward, and we'll try our best to get this underway this month, the month of June.
I believe you're going to have a number of individuals in the community that want to be involved. You know, there's members of the retirement community here tonight, and we obviously are working out some issues with them, but at the same time, a number of them will come up to me after the meeting and say, hey, listen, we may have this difference here, but we really want to help in this other way. We've got some ideas. We've been with the city. We live in the city for a lot of years, and we've got ideas. I think that's where good ideas come from, by having a diverse and thoughtful set of people sitting at the table with very different backgrounds and experiences. So I think your idea of having some open meetings and a citizens commission to look at this can be nothing but helpful. So thank you for being willing to coordinate that.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion items or reports? Seeing none, this is the second part of our agenda where we ask individuals to please come up and address the council of any issue related to the council's business, including issues not on the agenda tonight. Please come forward.
I'm Kathleen Beauvais, live at 28 Lynn Street, and I have a kind of personal agenda. Behind the house, there's a right-of-way, and I've been there for about 50 years, and maintaining it, mowing the lawn back there and such. Anyway, there's a bamboo problem, and it has acquired over the years, and I've been cutting it back as much as I can, removing the bamboo. But this year, well, my body has said no. However, I look back there, and I don't know if it happened during the last snowstorm we had that was so heavy, but it knocked all the dead bamboo over. So anyway, to me, it's a fire hazard, as well as little critters, 2, 4, and 6-legged critters there. But I called the Public Works. They said that it was under the auspices of the Municipal Lighting Department because there's a pole there. The pole is not in my part. It's about maybe 4 houses down. There's no wires, so they came, they looked at it, and they did say that it was the homeowner's responsibility to maintain it because they were concerned with the wires. I said, okay. This is the first year that I thought, oh my word, I don't know what I'm going to do. So anyway, they did suggest that I get somebody in to cut it down and move it back. Because it's not only my property, it's adjacent. So we're never going to get rid of the bamboo, let's face it. It grows like topsy. But, so anyway, I finally found a landscaper who would come in, and he would cut it down, take out the stumps, level it off, and then seed it down, and then at least I can keep it mowed during the summertime. He gave me his estimate, and it's a little under $1,200. I went, woo. So anyway, I'm here tonight because I really can't afford $1,200. I don't know, I may end up having to do it, but I didn't know if there was any way that the city, and I don't know how many right-of-ways you have in the city. There may be a lot of them. I don't know how many should be taken under consideration, but I did have a suggestion that maybe they look at these right-of-ways and see what if there's anything that should be done, and if they even took a day out of the year just to come in and clean it up, then, there wouldn't be as many mosquitoes and skunks and all the little inhabitants that come along with it. So I don't know if there's anything you can do, but I certainly would appreciate you at least taking it under consideration.
So you're at 28, Lynn?
28 Lynn.
I'll come by
And-
this weekend.
and the
I
fire-
think I have some ideas.
And the right-of-way is between Oak Street and Lynn Street. It comes off Bailey and goes to Stetson Avenue.
Okay. I will get your phone number after this session, and then I'll call you and I'll come by and visit this weekend. Might have not a landscaper solution, but might have another solution.
Well, I even thought that, even if somebody could come in and clean it out,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't mind, getting somebody in to level it off and put some topsoil there and at least do that much.
I
But
can get some volunteers to come in and clean it out.
okay, thank you.
So
Thank you.
make sure I get your number.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you mind writing your phone number? Thank you so much.
Is there any other individuals like to come and speak, please?
I'll give you a call Saturday.
My name is John Lenny. We're going to continue. Thank you. You've already voted down the truck. I pray to God that somebody doesn't die because of it. I have been involved with 4 major fires near houses where I've lived. Plattsburgh Fire Department has saved our ass. When the Terry Miron property went up on Court Street, and that whole back building that was right next to Turner, those flames were 30 feet in the air. I live 400 feet away. We put people in our house so that they could get out of the cold. I brought the fire department water. I help them out wherever I can. When I lived on Park Avenue, Dr. Sauerwein's house burnt down, and 4 containers blew up and went 30 to 40 feet in the air because kids were barbecuing on a deck and left the thing on. At that fire, I saw 2 firemen put on gear and go on hands and knees into that building looking because there was supposedly 1 person unaccounted for. Before they got a hose on that, those 2 guys were in there. The one that was on Brinkerhoff Street, those men went into that fire building. No concern for their life. It was concern for our lives. They need to be treated a whole hell of a lot better than they're being treated. They are not the reason for our budget problem. You people, when you voted down that 6-year deal, that was a good deal. You should have taken it. It was abuse on the city's part for years. Since 2007, these guys don't get a raise. I was HR director from 1999 to 2007. We sat down and hammered out 2 contracts during that period. They took a couple zeros during that period because we were in hard times. They've given. You guys need to make sure that they have the equipment to save our butts. So take a look at this fire truck. If it breaks down onto a fire, pray to God nobody dies, because it will be on your guys' heads. The last 7 years, I don't know what's been going on with this council with the budget. I didn't pay much attention to it because I've had 5 major surgeries during that period. And to now lose my health insurance after this crap, and sit here and I read that arbitration report, and when I read that the city chamberlain said that we've been spending $1.23 million above our revenues since 2011 or 2012, I don't remember exactly because I've read a bunch of reports lately. I just shook my head. When I was the HR director, we all worked together to come up with a budget that was fair. We did not pay our managers during that period. They may have gotten 1%, but at least they got 1%. You need to start from scratch because what you're doing and what's been going on for the last 7 or 8 years is wrong. I was going to do a $500,000 investment on a piece of property off the Boynton Avenue. I wouldn't invest in this city with the way things are going here, ever. I got mad at the city a few years ago and I sold all of my property in the city. And I bought property in the town. I now own, unfortunately, 2 houses back in the city again because of getting remarried. You need to start from scratch. You need to look at every single position that has been created in the last 2 years. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of duplication. And we have talked about it, Mayor, but I haven't seen anything done about it. The duplicated jobs that are affecting this budget. It's a lot of money.
Thank you.
Any other individuals like to come and speak, please?
Rebecca King, 19 Monty Street. I had the opportunity over the previous weeks and months to come to the budget meetings that were held after these meetings. And I have to tell you, I want to thank the councilors, I want to thank the mayor, I want to thank all the city heads, Mr. Marks, everybody. I saw how you struggled with the need to balance the taxpayers and the workers and what the city needs and try to, bring in money for the city. And I saw what a difficult struggle it was to come to these things, and I really appreciate the time and effort you put into that. And I get the feeling that you guys really are looking out for the best for the city and the taxpayers. And I just wanted to make sure you knew that there are taxpayers out there like me who appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Any other individuals, please? Last call. Seeing none then, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Councilor Armstrong, second by Councilor Kelly. Roll call, please.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Dowdle?
Yes.
Councilor Renzel? Yes. Councilor Casper?
Yes.
Councilor Pretzer?
Yes.
At the conclusion of this meeting, we are going to have a special meeting for the Municipal Lighting District. Anybody is welcome to attend. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Thanks.
We can sign. Yeah.
You picked that.
You can sign it anywhere, that way, the farmer's market, or the Maplefield market? Yeah, there will be no discussion, we just have the numbers approved, just no discussion in the ensuing weeks.
What exactly am I supposed to be putting in? Do you have any idea?
Watch the papers. I'm sure we'll have another public process on that.
You too, thank you.
Keep in touch with our office.
You were talking about fund balance.
The agenda, did you get an agenda?
I mean, this figure right here.
Outside the board, that table, and that gives you what we just went
Sometimes it helps to do this.
Now, do you guys have any elected?
That will be the fund balance.
And Gary,
We are the elected officials.
whatever you guys are telling me.
Yeah.
So he's an attorney, so he's not an elected official. So he's not a council member.
27
No other elected
years
officials
are
are
in the hole.
here. And there's no
Next year,
appointed
there'll be a little
official.
less in the hole, because we'll have a little bit of surplus.
Yeah, probably.
Then the next year, this surplus will add. So,
Yes,
surplus
from 1999, I have mechanical issues.
Okay.
One thing that's wrong with our trucks is we have to buy trucks that fit in the fire station, the imperial fire station. So we have to have leveling.
What would you like? What do you need?
Part of this was to add a bay on
Get it
the
for you.
building.
But just add some.
That was the
Anything.
1999.
Yeah. Michelle read, right? Yeah. That's what.
We bought
All right,
one
I think I got a handle on it.
previously
I've been putting it
this budget, basically we're taking the money away.
That's gonna be, miles can be expected, huh?
If you have any questions,
Don't even really know that much about the
I'll
city.
be happy to answer.
I live on Saranac.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Playing fits and C-bands.
Yeah, where do you live up there?
You know, the preventative.
Okay, that's I don't. I know the Kaiser. Yeah. There's a lot of. What's your last name? What is it?
Presumably,
Jerry Minor, I think.
yes.
Yeah,
The beautiful thing is that we're all in agreement right now. And it's not that long ago, so take it's time for us to work on and approve the mayor's budget. I think it's gonna be easy. I think we're all gonna be on the same key of music. And it's not set in stone. Right, oh yeah, that can be changed at any time. If something new comes up that we haven't anticipated, we can plug it in there. But we're grounded in reality now, which is really nice. I think you said some interesting statements. Yeah.
Good, how are you?
Yeah, me too.
It's usually
Right here. Okay, sounds good.
just for your rights. And then it's
Yep,
the
glad to
staff
help.
involved with, the projections. Putting a bow together, whereas,
I don't know if we're calling it surplus, it's gonna get underutilized. And I know there's park alienation protection. No, but there's 17 parks in the city.
What's the one right by, the street that leads?
Hamilton is underutilized. I mean, the oval is there now. It wasn't there for that park.
Even the park on the corner of
Tremblay and
Tremblay and Ringer, that one, and there's the other one on the corner of Flagler,
hang out there, you'll go.
Flagler, and then the Brook. I think
there's
it's
all of
Saratoga,
that underutilized.
because you got that other park around the corner.
There is property out there you could buy, not all of it. Because we own a lot of property. We own right away.
for the aerial,
Down to
that was
the
towards the
You get the revenue from it, plus your
I appreciate that, but if we could have them do it with the big equipment. And, you know, if there is a
However,
right
as
of
we're
way.
told, residential does not make us any money in terms of taxes. It's only commercial.
You're gonna quote me
You
on
know, when I was
taking
in
selling property?
Asia, you know how we
well,
have scaffolding on the
discussed that,
sides of
yeah,
buildings for people to work on?
That son of a
Tell me-
bitch.
I mean, we're talking about scaffolding.
That we own. That we pay taxes on. Yeah, be damned.
Realize that it'll end up being a bamboo forest.
Well, we own
The other water,
Yeah, that it would work.
first I ever heard.
Mead and, Yes.
And we,
On that little, we pay taxes on the strip all the way up through. But we'd have to drill out the wells, get water out of the lake before that ever happened. Right, I mean, that's,
plus it's all gravity fed.
this deal, this deal.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, yeah. Regardless of what Tim McCormick said.
Back as far as all day.
Suggestions here are there for the water business. Sell bottled water.
Everybody does, that was before everybody did.
got plenty of water.
We buy bottled water now, and it's just, really? All they did was turn on the tap. Oh, I know. But everybody that I have that comes here visits from wherever,
Hey, Rebecca.
best water is.
Thank
They love our water.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. King.
That rarely
They
happens.
love our water.
I've listened to how many weeks of this, and I thought that somebody in this town should say.
Yeah. Somebody who actually is a witness to the
Right.
process.
Interesting, the people that make the comments don't sit through the meetings.
Is this being open to the public?
I think the market may be saturated on that, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Ira, do you mind if I give you your email address?
It cost me $300.
Oh, you guys have
to get
already
that quote.
okay.
Because I had to take it apart.
Yeah, I have it too.
You know the other place you can get another quote is take the
It's
bowl.
over. Thank you, Ira.
Sorry. A lot per hour. They won't bite. How did they come up with their hourly rates for these?
Oh, you're not?
Same like the mechanic does. They got it all on computers.
I think we elected.
You know, it's like
Thanks,
they
Ira.
talk to the garage.
No,
Then they got
Josh
all
is,
the
that's
computers,
right.
they know
Josh is, I'm the
how many hours
secretary.
it's been, you know, a water pump and so forth.
Yeah. Is it 126.50 per hour?
Yeah, they're.
All right, I'd like to call to,
Mechanics get paid good.
call to,
I croak every time I go to.
call the meeting to order of the Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department, June 1st, 2017. I guess we'll start with a roll call.
I haven't even done it
Director
yet.
Armstrong.
Here.
Director Dowdle.
They charge
Director
us
Kelly.
triage.
Director Ensel is absent. Is he?
He's here.
He's here. He just can't see. Director Casper.
I'm here.
Director Kretzer is here. Director Reed.
Doesn't,
Manager Tracy.
I'm here.
And CFO Kluki could not join us tonight. No.
She's at the Little League.
Oh, that's fantastic. Minutes of the previous meeting, resolved that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department Board held on April 20th, 2017, and the minutes of the organizational meeting also held on April 20th, 2017 are approved and be placed in the file among the publics in the MLD office. Motion by Councilor Armstrong, seconded by Councilor Dowdle. Any discussion? Roll call. Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Dowdle?
Yes.
Councilor Ensel?
Yes.
Councilor Casper?
Yes.
Councilor Kretzer, yes. Number two, resolved in accordance with the request for the Municipal Lighting Department Board approves the mayor be authorized to sign a letter not renewing the purchase of 64 TCCs from New York Independent System Operator in the amount of $332,458 for this year. This will end Plattsburgh participation in this program. The purpose of these TCCs was to provide a financial hedge against transmission congestion charges impacting the New York State grid. However, due to counter congestion appearing on the lines, the TCCs have become a major liability. The counter congestion is expected to get worse due to the construction of the wind farms in the North Country being built as a part of New York State's 3050 program. The NIMPA recommendation is not to renew the TCCs and to allow them to expire.
Nobody waived the reading.
They
They
did.
I was about to.
Beth is on
was gonna
vacation,
read it.
I'm reading, so you guys better.
That's right. Well,
5
you're
lines or more.
quick.
Okay. Can I get a motion? Councilor Dowdle, second by Councilor Ensel. Roll call. Councilor Armstrong.
Yes.
Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Dowdle.
Yes.
Councilor Ensel.
Yes.
Councilor Casper.
Yes.
Councilor Kretzer, yes. Councilor Reed.
Carter never did work.
Person, perfect. And then a motion to adjourn by Councilor Casper, seconded by Councilor Kelly. Roll call. Councilor Armstrong.
Yes.
Councilor
B.
Dowdle, yes. Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Councilor Edsel.
That's okay. It was a car that never did work right.
Councilor Casper.
Yeah.
Councilor Kretzer, yes. Councilor Reed, yes.
Thank you very much.
Motion adjourned.
that was a fast one.
That was a fast one.
Wow. That's the
Thanks,
fastest
Bill.
one ever.
It's short.
You want a copy?
President knows how to run a meeting.
I felt like an auctioneer.
Holy shit, we're impatient.
Aren't we impatient? What do we get?